Daily Mail feels able to declare this morning 1 foot in number 10. He has been accused, though, of dodging the media and not answering questions. Not anymore. A short while ago I asked him why he's been so quiet during the leadership contest.
Well, actually, I dispute that, of course, Mark, because I've been subjecting myself to scrutiny on the part of my colleagues in Parliament. Lots of hustings have taken place. I've done newspaper interviews, and here I am. And I just want to say that...
Here you are. What about the TV debates?
And exactly. I've always been keen on TV debates and slightly bewildered by the conversation that's been going on, because I think it is important that we have a sensible, grown-up debate. And my own observation is that I think in the past, when you've had loads of candidates, it can be slightly cacophonous. And I think the public have had quite a lot of blue-on-blue action, frankly, over the last 3 years. We don't necessarily need a lot more of that. And so what I think the best solution would be to have a debate on what we all have to offer the country, our programme to take Britain forward, my programme to unite the country. And the best time to do that, I think, would be after the second ballot on Tuesday. And the best forum is the BBC, the proposed BBC debate. I think that's a good idea.
So you're not taking part in the debates on Sunday and Tuesday?
Well, there are all sorts of invitations. I must have received dozens and dozens of invitations to do hustings here, there and everywhere, and debates of all kinds. But as I say, I think there can be a risk of not only a slight cacophony when you have lots and lots of candidates, but also the impression of yet more blue-on-blue action, when I think what the public want to hear is
you will take part in the BBC debate.
And Mark, what I'm saying is I'm very keen on TV debates, and did many, if people remember, in the run-up to the London mayoral elections. I think by the end, a certain sort of narcolepsy had descended on the TV audience.
Well,
so I'm more than happy to do the BBC TV debate on Tuesday.
Well, before you get to the big screen, as you point out, you are here. Isn't the fear of your supporters summed up in a Telegraph cartoon today, which shows a Prime Ministerial Boris Johnson about to be tripped up by a clownish Boris Johnson? They're worried about what you might say.
Well, look, I think people will always try to find a kind of a moment when they can say that they've tripped me up or got me or forced me into some gaffe or indiscretion or error of some kind. But I will continue to be the kind of politician I've been for a very long time, and that is somebody who believes passionately in his ideas, somebody I want to take this country forward. I think we have some fantastic projects now going on to unite the UK with infrastructure, with education, with technology. In a nutshell, what I want to do in the UK is do, in a sense, what we did in London to try to unite our society and bring it together.
But
sometimes I say things that cause, a fluttering in the dovecotes or a plaster to come off the ceiling, if it gets people's attention, if it interests them in politics, Mark, then I think that is no bad thing.
Well, indeed, isn't that part of the problem? Because the part of your appeal, that bluntness, that frankness, that vividness of language, is also what gets you into terrible trouble sometimes.
Well, maybe it does. But here I am, and I want to put my case to you and to my friends and colleagues in the Conservative Party. I think that we have a good formula to take the country forward, a winning formula, and it is modern, progressive conservatism, and it is the way to defeat Jeremy Corbyn.
And what's the formula on Brexit?
And also to take the wind out of the sails, both of the Liberals and of the new Brexit Party, who, to come to your point, Mark, both those parties are, of course, feasting mightily on the failure of the political class in this country at the moment to sort out Brexit.
Do you want no deal?
I don't, let's be absolutely clear, I don't aim for no deal. I don't want no deal as the outcome of the talks, of course not. I don't want us to leave with a WTO solution as my number one priority. That is not what I'm
How bad would it be
for
for Britain?
But I certainly don't think that some of the promises of doom and disaster are true, and I think that you'll find plenty of people who will give you a very different verdict about what no deal would mean. And indeed,
so why do you want
our preparations are very extensive, because I think that we can get to a situation in which we are able to leave smoothly with an orderly, managed Brexit, and that's what we should be aiming for. But the only way to make sure that we convince our partners that we're determined to get that outcome is to prepare for no deal.
But can you get that deal?
I think people do understand that.
By the end of October? It's not realistic.
No, I think on the contrary, I think it is perfectly realistic, and there is a clear way that the now effectively defunct withdrawal agreement can be disaggregated. The good bits of it can be taken out. I think, for instance, one thing that would be immediately right to do, and which I suggested straight after the referendum result 3 years ago, I think what we should do is take the provisions on citizenship, take the offer that we make to the 3.2 million European EU citizens in our country, and do it in a supererogatory way. Just do it of our own accord, pass it through Parliament. Then there's the question, obviously, of the ongoing court cases, the EU officials' pension rights, and lesser matters, which I think can also.
But it's the Irish backstop that's the real problem, isn't it?
Absolutely, Mark. And the fundamental flaw in the current withdrawal agreement, which everybody understands, is the Irish backstop arrangements. And don't forget that that prison, that Hobson's choice, which it presents any UK government with, of either being unable to set our own economic and political destiny, or having to give up the government of Northern Ireland. Everybody understands the flaws in the backstop, and MPs on all sides of the House condemned it. The solution is obvious, and it's something.
Tell us, share it.
It's something that actually united MPs on all sides of the House when they voted for the Brady Amendment. Now, of course, our friends and partners over the channel will say this is impossible, we can't do this, it's a unicorn, and so on, and I perfectly understand that. But I think actually there is a solution to be arrived at in that area.
But do you understand?
And we should work very hard for it.
I'm sure you do understand.
In the meantime, it's absolutely crucial to prepare for no deal. And I don't share the deep pessimism of some people about the consequences of no deal. That's not to say that I don't think there will be some difficulties that need to be addressed, and we must make sure that we can address them. But unless we get ready, and unless we show fortitude and determination, I don't think that we will carry conviction in Brussels about the deal we want to do.
How do you solve the central problem, which is that the European Union wants a border of some sort, in the sense that they can't have customs arrangements of one sort on one side and one sort on the other?
I understand. Well, they don't want a border, of course, and they've said
they don't want a hard border, but they don't want goods coming in from a UK with the different regulations into their sphere.
Yes, but those problems are easily capable of solution, as I think the Commission has said in the past, with maximum facilitation techniques. And after all, at the moment, you already have goods with conforming to different standards. France, for instance, has different laws on flame retardant furniture, but yet we have no checks at the borders to intercept goods from France that may not illegally be sold in this country.
How do you reassure them? I mean, say we do a deal. Can I just ask the question? Say we do a deal with America and we allow in, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, chlorinated chicken. How do the European Union stop that getting into the European Union?
The obvious way to do it is to make sure that you have checks on anybody who breaks the law, as you would expect, but you do it away from the border, and that is common ground.
So what, you have to take your chicken to a border post somewhere?
That's right.
Still could be a target for terrorists.
Anybody who breaks the law is clearly going to be subject to
But how do you
to
catch
checks and
them?
investigation.
You can't say to smugglers, turn up at this centre, show us what you're smuggling, which is what you seem to be suggesting.
If you're talking about the Northern Irish border, as you know, there already is smuggling across that border, and smugglers are intercepted in the normal way, and that is the important thing. There are ways of doing this that do not require a hard border. And
do you really think you can persuade the European Union of that? Because they would say it just allows a flood of goods, particularly when you've been quite clear you would like this change because you want different standards in Britain. You want...
I do, yeah, I do.
So that the things that you want looser standards for would get into the European Union.
Well, they might, but then people would be breaking the law, and there are ways of intercepting them that do not require hard borders, and that is well acknowledged. But that is what we need to the solutions to the facilitations that need to be provided to enable that to take place, and to enable us to do a proper free trade deal with our friends and partners. Those should not be preordained by the backstop, but they should be remitted into the implementation period for discussion after we have left and in the context of our negotiation of the free trade deal. That is the obvious solution. It's something that is agreed on all sides of the House. Now, I accept that at the moment the EU will say, well, we can't accept that. It's not possible. They're bound to say that at present. I think that they will find a way out. It would not be. They will find a way forward, and it would simply not be sensible
I mean, so if
for
we
the
have
EU and the UK to part in that kind of disorderly way. But if we have to get out on what is called no deal terms or on WTO terms, then it is our absolute responsibility to prepare for it.
But
And it's by preparing for it that we will prevent that outcome.
If you go as Prime Minister, if you win and go to the European Council and make this sort of argument, the sort of conversation that we've been having about checks away from the borders, do you think they'll suddenly say, oh, that's right, we didn't see it before, but now we agree with you? I
think what they will see is that politics has changed in the UK and in Europe. They have now 29 Brexit MEPs in Strasbourg. The parties in this country are facing an existential threat from parties that are feasting on both the Brexit Party and the Liberal Democrats up in the polls, leading the polls, as a result of the failure of the two main parties to deliver on the will of the people. That is what needs to happen. It needs to happen by October the 31st, and we need to get on and do it. And all those who say that we should delay, that we should kick the can down the road, I think they risk doing terminal damage to trust in politics.
And are you absolutely promising, whatever stage, even if they're saying, look, we need you're right and my suggestions are wrong, that they will do a deal, that they've come to the table, and even if they're saying, look, we need a couple of more weeks, you'll say, no, we've got to be out by October.
We've got to be out by October the 31st, and that is by
even if you're on the brink of a deal.
That is that would be we have to get out by October the 31st, and I think it would be absolutely bizarre to signal at this stage that the UK government was willing once again to run up the white flag and delay yet again.
And that is so firm a promise you would resign as a newly elected Prime Minister if you didn't do that.
My commitment is to honour the will of the people and take this country out on October the 31st and to get this thing done. That is what people want. And the way to do it, as I say, is to disaggregate the current withdrawal agreement and move on. And once we move on, we will be able to do many, many things. Once we get Brexit off the front pages, there will be a massive opportunity for the Conservative Party once again to occupy the centre ground of politics and to speak for huge numbers of people in the country
indeed.
who
So
feel they were left behind, and partly one of the reasons why they voted Brexit was because they felt left behind. And now is the chance for us to do some absolutely fantastic things.
What would you say to those who would say, why do you think you can be more impressive as Prime Minister than you were as Foreign Secretary, where you left many heads shaking at your constant gaffes?
Well, on the contrary, I think if you look at what happened when I was Foreign Secretary, we managed to organise, I think, the single biggest diplomatic coup this country has pulled off that I can remember, when about 30 countries around the world expelled 153 Russian spies collectively in response to the poisonings in Salisbury.
That is perfectly true, but you know that Alan Duncan, for instance, said he acted as your pooper scooper, going behind you, clearing up your mistakes. We've heard Foreign Office diplomats say much the same.
And I think that any more blue-on-blue action in this contest is not what I want to get into. But I was very proud as Foreign Secretary to have expanded our network very considerably, to have championed female education around the world, and to have done quite a lot actually to stop the illegal wildlife trade around the world, to say nothing of hosting a great Commonwealth summit and many, many other things. But
what about Nazim and Harry Ratcliffe? I mean, you made a mistake there, didn't you?
Well, actually, I think that if you look at what the Foreign Office has done, not just with Nazanin, but with a number of very, very difficult consular cases. One's sympathy is with Nazanin and her family, clearly, and with the families of the other consular cases. But if you point the blame at the Foreign Office...
Well, no, I'm not pointing the blame at the Foreign Office at all. I'm suggesting that you made a comment that was untrue, apparently untrue.
If you point the finger of blame at me or at anybody who's tried to, as I did, to get Nazanin out, then I think you are unintentionally exculpating the people who are really responsible, and that is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Quds Force, and Qasem Soleimani, who are illegally and inhumanely detaining those individuals.
Of course, that is true, but you can still make a statement that proved difficult. Doesn't it suggest you didn't do your homework? Basic reading of a brief.
Look at the record of what we delivered in London. In 8 years, we outbuilt Labour in housing. We had a record investment in transport. We cut tube delays by 30%. We cut crime by about 20%, and we cut the murder rate by 50%. And we worked flat out to achieve that. And it was because I had a great team that I was able to do that. And we will have a great team, if I'm lucky enough to be elected, that will deliver the same kind of progress and the same sort of improvements for the people of this entire country. And that is my ambition, and that is why I'm standing in this race.
One last question. When did you last take cocaine?
I've answered that question exhaustively, but I can tell you that the canonical answer has been given.
Indulge me. Answer it again.
A single inconclusive event that took place, and I note my words, a single inconclusive event that took place when I was a teenager, and which I've extensively described already on the BBC.
Never since then.
No.
Boris Johnson,